My name is Stephen Elkins with the Flint and Genesee Chamber of Commerce. I want to thank you for joining us for this afternoon's webinar. Today we're joined by City of Flint Mayor Sheldon Neeley, as well as Adrian Walker, our Director of Governmental Affairs and Community Relations. Again, thank you so much for joining us. I want to hand it right over to Adrian to kick things off.
Yeah, well, good afternoon, everyone. And as Stephen mentioned, welcome to our webinar with Mayor Sheldon Neeley. We know the City of Flint has been on the forefront in terms of the rapid and early responses to everything that has went on within the city as it relates to the COVID-19. So we wanted to make sure that we reached out to the mayor and provided him the opportunity to speak to our business community about everything that the city is doing as it relates to the coronavirus. So I'll pass it off to Mayor Neeley for the update.
Good afternoon, guys, and thank you, Adrian, for that introduction. And I want to thank the Flint and Genesee County Chamber of Commerce for hosting this webinar and all of you for joining us. And we want to make sure that we always give thanks to our Creator, God, because it's going to take a mighty effort to get us through all of this. And so for all of those of you who are praying people, please continue to engage in prayer for our community and also our state and also our country as we move forward through this pandemic. You know, we want to talk a little bit about the proactive activity that the City of Flint has had and as its engagement through this process of fighting back the spread of this deadly virus that's claiming a lot of lives and also a lot of things that we have known to be the norm for our communities. But if we can put up the slide about the chronology in which we have done inside the City of Flint, as you can look at, and I can review it with you, I issued a public health alert on March 11th, also declared a state of emergency on the water crisis as it relates to the pandemic on March 12th. March 15th, we also announced other things that we will be effectively doing things throughout a course of a period of time, early parts and mid parts of March. And as I'm trying to focus my eyes on the screen to see all those things that we have done. But our approach has been simply this. We need to be very proactive as it relates to protecting lives and the safeguarding of our society as we know it. And those of you that's in the business community, you know what kind of traumatic effect that's had on our community as well as our business communities. And I want to encourage you to stay faithful to the things that's going on and also be in contact with our economic development core teams to make sure that you take advantage of the opportunities to help safeguard the health of your businesses. But most recently, you guys have heard that we have initiated a curfew inside the City of Flint. And that curfew was from 9 p.m. to 6 a.m. And we did so because we saw people gathering in spaces and places and not observing the shelter in place that was issued by our governor. And so we did so with a lot of prayer and consideration about what's going on as far as the health and welfare and also our business vitality. Many businesses already close at the hours of 9 p.m. Walmart, 8:30, Kroger's, Myers probably at the hour of 10. But other places, pharmacies are all closed and they usually reactivate their activities around 7 a.m. in the morning. But what we want to do as the health community throughout our country has projected an uptick, a very large uptick in the next 2 weeks of this disease spreading and claiming lives. We had to take some proactive activities. And I would ask all of you to participate in that with me, to be able to take some observations about you and your business practices and how we can safeguard lives in this city of Flint, as well in the county of Genesee and the state of Michigan and also our country. And before we engage into some of the Q&As, because I really want to talk about those things and some of those misnomers that may be out there about what we're doing and some of the activities that we're going to be engaging in the very near future. But it's all done with the idea of saving and safeguarding lives in this community. Some of these decisions are not popular and some of them may be an inconvenience to you, but what we definitely want to do is not take this lightly. And not enough people are taking this seriously. I just received a text message moments ago that another person has lost their life. And I'm sure it'll be coming out a little bit later, but it's another icon in our community and was a very good role model for me when I completed college and came to work inside the city of Flint. But this epidemic, corona virus, COVID-19, there's no classism, racism. This disease claims life wherever they can go. It doesn't respect borders, but we have to be able to defend ourselves. And this test right now that we're all under is going to be reviewed in history, how we were able to overcome this and what activities that we do and how we work together and to overcome this pandemic in our society. And so as we make moves moving forward, we've had a lot of good partners. We've had the Nestle Corporation step up to give us more access to bottled water. In the city of Flint, we're experiencing a crisis on top of a crisis with a side of crisis. We have not yet come out of our water crisis inside the city of Flint. Many residents do not consume tap water. Many people do not use tap water still in the city of Flint. And so we still have those that need access to water that they can trust. And we currently have 3 help centers throughout the city of Flint that actually gives water out on Mondays, Tuesdays, and Thursdays. I want to thank Bethel United Methodist Church, also Asbury Church, and also Greater Holy Temple. Over at Bethel United Methodist Church, as 1309 Ballinger Highway, from the hours of 10 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. They give out bottled water to those residents that needs that access to a water source that they can trust. Asbury, they also give water out on Tuesdays from 10 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. Also at Greater Holy Temple, located on Dort Highway, close to Carpenter Road, between Carpenter and Coldwater Roads. Excuse me for that. But Mother Jones and Bishop Jones are doing that on Thursdays from 10 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. Now, also, we're reactivating our home delivery, and this is very important. This is very, very important. This is where I need your partnerships on. Those who cannot get out to get water, those individuals that has a ailment or a lack of transportation, that cannot get out to get water on those days, Nestle Corporation has agreed to, for a period of a month, to give us additional resources inside our communities for those waters to be delivered to those residents. They can call area code 810-410-2020. That's 410-2020 to be reactivated on that list for homebound individuals that cannot get out to get water. We're still in need of some volunteers to be able to help us transport to those individuals and those families. Water restoration in the city of Flint, we began that on March 12th as well. Though our governor, some 2 weeks after that point, gave the order that water delivery, where water reconnection should be happening inside the state of Michigan for those who are disconnected from the system. We in the city of Flint proactively started that 2 weeks prior to that declaration by the governor. We have now since reconnected around 200 users back onto the system to make sure that they have sanitary environments, that they can make sure that they wash their hands and do the things that's necessary to continue the sanitary way that we can conduct ourselves to help eliminate the spread of this virus. So we have done these things at a great cost to this municipality, at a great cost to residents, but we can overcome a deficit, a financial deficit. But one deficit that we can never overcome is a death deficit, and that's why we've been making these proactive activities. This week, I will be announcing a system to be able to help residents pay into their utility bills, their water bills. The program is, if you pay $1, we pay $1, up to $75, meaning if a resident pays $1 on their water bill from a pre-selected group, if you call in that same number, 410-2020, or to contact their council persons, we can get them activated into that system, whereby we pay $1, they pay $1, up to $75 for their utility bills inside the city of Flint. We at the City of Flint probably spend about $250,000 a day to run our water activities. That's our water sewer division, our water centers, and also making sure those employees are still compensated for the work that they do for the City of Flint. But at that level, and we don't have payers into the system, we at some point may fall in a further deficit, what I call a negative normal. But we need people to re-engage the activity of paying it, their bills. And I know this is very difficult and hard times for people, as many layoffs have been done, many disconnections to the work place for people. And so that's why we decided to secure dollars for this particular activity. And so with that, I think I gave enough of an overview to where we are. So I would take questions at this time.
Yeah, so Mayor, I'll kick us off with two questions following up. I know in your slide deck you mentioned that the curfew was implemented on April 2nd. The curfew goes from April 2nd currently until when?
It's a 30-day period from the time that I enacted it. So it's a 30-day period that takes us through what they're projecting the peak period of this epidemic is going to take us through, and then maybe we are flatline, and then it takes us through that period of time. But we must do everything that we can to safeguard lives. Right now in the county of Genesee, we have 568 cases that's been confirmed. We have 258 cases inside the city of Flint, meaning that the Flint is in the county is the epicenter for this coronavirus and those who have tested positive. And currently right now, as of yesterday's date, we have 26 confirmed deaths as a byproduct of that. And so the data has not come out for today just yet.
Yeah, I know that. And then Mayor, when the curfew did come down, so we heard from some of the businesses here in the area about, again, some of them closed right at 9. So some of their employees who still may need to travel back home, and maybe the need for them to have documentation as they travel, just in case they're stopped on the way home. Can you speak to that a little bit?
Right. Well, those essential workers that's traveling to and from work won't be held accountable for being out after the curfew. It's only those people who are loitering in those common public places or private places. And moreover than that, I'm just going to be very frank with you. Convenience stores that sells a lot of liquor, they're gathering in those parking lots, and it was reported to me and others that these places were being used for places to substitute bars and or restaurants. The shelter-in-place order by the governor closed barbershops, beauty shops, bars, and restaurants. And so, the weather's nice outside. The temptation is out for everybody to get out and mingle with others, to be more social, but we cannot have that right now. And it's unpopular, and it's not favorable. I know I've been demonized in some parts of our community for taking this hard action, but that is some criticism that I'm willing to take in order to safeguard lives. There's nothing worse than losing a loved one, losing life, or the potential that one could have poured back into our community. We need to make sure that we do everything possible. And I need those of like thinking to come on board to help us out with these very difficult decisions that I have to make. And Adrian, as well as you know, I've been in office less than 5 months.
Oh, yeah. No, trust me, I totally understand. And then, Mayor, just my last question. So I know at the county level, there's this emergency task force that I believe that the city is a part of, but the city has, I believe, taken an extra step given the number of cases. Can you just talk about the city's role within that task force?
Well, the city is a largest population inside of Genesee County. You have 32 units of government. The city of Flint, as a municipality, is the largest unit of government with the most population. And so we're a part of that, and we have to be proactive in our thinking. We declared an emergency prior to the county doing so. The county did follow suit. But as a declaration goes, when we look at resources that has to be achieved to be able to offset these things, it usually goes city, county, state, and then it gets to the federal level, and then resources comes down from the federal government, state, county, and then to the municipality. And so we have to be proactive in the way that we engage it, and we're part of that task force. And we still have a lot of vulnerable people and most of them are low to moderate income levels in poverty-stricken areas. And Flint has been deemed that through our 2010 census tract that we have a lot of poverty in our community, but also communities of color, Black and brown communities throughout our nation has been more adversely impacted, and poor communities have been more adversely impacted than most. And so when we look at it in the totality, some of these undervalued communities usually lacks to get resources. So under this administration, we will never surrender to that. Every life is important, and we will be very proactive about getting the resources we need to safeguard lives. And being part of that task force is our argument most days.
Sure. And then, Mayor, I'm sorry, I got one more question, and then we'll open it up to the broader audience. But I have to ask it. So I believe that the city hall is shut down, but folks like my grandmother and a lot of other people still come down or still normally go in and pay their bills at the city. With the city being closed, what does that process now look for people who go in person to actually pay their bills or for other city functions?
Yeah, I call City Hall now Command Central. So what I've done is I've sent about 175 employees home to work remotely. And so only essential employees are actually being called to respond to the activities of their job, police, fire, water services, and that nature. But people coming down to City Hall, we made arrangements for them to be able to have access to be able to continuously engage in activity of paying their utility bills and others. There's a red box outside of City Hall placed there for people to be able to drop their bill inside of there with a money order and or check, or they can pay online. We have waived all fees as it relates to that activity, be able to engage in that utility. Sometimes it would take maybe $2 or $3 as an online payment fee. We have waived that to make that accessible for residents, and also the drop box is still available. If you're out for that walk or you're taking your dog out with a mask on and also practicing social distancing, you can also come by City Hall. There's a red box right in front of City Hall where that drop can be made, and it can be collected and added to your payment for that essential utility that you have.
Great. Thank you, Mayor. So I'll turn it back over to Steve maybe for some questions that we're receiving online.
Thanks, Adrian. Thanks, Mayor. I see a few questions so far. The first one, can you speak to efforts underway to bring widespread testing to our community, for example, drive up to the city?
Yeah, well, in the task force that Adrian talked about just a moment ago, they're talking about that activity with our health community. And we have a couple major medical facilities right here inside the city of Flint, which is McLaren Health and Hurley Hospital. But what the problem is, and what the problem has been across our country, there's not enough tests available to just have people come and get tested. Now, if you are having symptoms of having the coronavirus and you go to your physician, you call your physician, your family physician, and or a clinic or the hospital. If you are having those symptoms, they will test you, but there's just a lack of testing kits. And even here at City Hall, we have implemented a program making sure that we test individuals, not with the actual testing kit, but making sure their temperature is less than 100, that they have not been in close contact with anybody who has been confirmed having coronavirus. We do that before people take the position at the job in our police and fire forces, because we cannot afford to lose our first round fighters, police and fire. And so we do those preemptive type of testing, making sure people do not have symptoms. But the case there is that the nation does not have enough testing kits to have those things done. But we're in talks and trying to get more of those kits to where people can drive up and test. But that will be done by our healthcare facilities inside the city of Flint.
Okay. Next question, does the water assistance program only apply to residents, or can businesses utilize the fund?
Only residents. We have to be mindful. The limited amount of resources that we currently have has to be given for those that's most vulnerable. The businesses cannot apply for it, but there has been some very generous type of business programs through SBA programs from the federal government, and also the state of Michigan, the Michigan Economic Development Authority. There have been 2 pots of dollars, one for business loans and then also for business grants. They have been very generous in doing so. People that traditionally could not apply for unemployment by the executive order of the governor. Those things have been made available to hairstylists, barbers, nail technicians. And so I would seek out information in those areas. And you can feel free to call the City of Flint to talk to our economic development team to be able to have a concierge of sorts if you're a business. But also the CDBG dollars are being used for those dollars for residential match programs. So businesses are not qualified under that guidelines. And the federal government has allowed us to use our home dollars and community block grant dollars in different ways, but it does not extend to businesses, only residential homes.
Great. Thank you. I'm seeing some questions here that we've touched on most all already. Adrian, any further questions that you've thought of?
No further ones to me, Mayor. I guess the only other thing that I will point out, if people have questions about the city's role within a number of things, where do you direct people to reach out to?
Well, they can direct themselves. They can call that 410-2020, 410-2020. But I have to really make this point. This is a crisis. This is a war against a virus that claims lives. We all have to do our part. And I know it is the natural instinct of personal survival type of activities, but we must be mindful of the most vulnerable. Hoarding should not be done. Those of you that own businesses that's a part of this webinar, please do not engage in price gouging type of activities. If we have resources out there, make sure that those that's most vulnerable can get those resources. We don't have to hoard products. When we do this water delivery, I know that it's a natural response that many community members have is that, well, I need water too. They should be delivering to me. But if you can get out and get that resource, do so. If you have a grandmother, grandfather, that you can help get resources. But let us take care of the most vulnerable, those who don't have that access to be able to get help from anywhere else but us. We only have the generosity of our philanthropic partners, and Nestle Corporation is being stepped up to give us a shipment, additional shipment of water for a period of a month's period of time. We have to be mindful that those resources should first go to the most vulnerable. In the old days, when we watch movies on television, when they had times of crisis, they said women and children first. We have to have that overall mentality as we look at seniors and the disabled and people who need these resources. Please do not use or take up the resources from those most vulnerable people. Help out where you can. If you have a neighbor, please look in on them, but make sure when you do so, you practice safe distancing, wearing a mask, and all of the recommendations from our health community. We're not through this by any means. I see a lot of kids gathering on basketball courts and playing basketball throughout the weekend. Parents, please don't make me have to take basketball hoops down through our community and then be villainized for doing so. We have to practice this safe process of taking care of one another, and we have to do so with a light thinking and thinking of intellect versus emotion. We have to get through this together. And so I want to thank Flint and Genesee County Chamber of Commerce for hosting this webinar. I want to thank all of you for being a great part in this. I want to continue to petition all of the faith believers to continue to lift us in prayer as we engage this. And I will continue to make the very hard decisions, absence any criticisms that we may get. But the priority that we have here is to save lives, and we will do that with no delay.
Thanks, Mayor. We did get one more question. I know that federal and state taxes have been moved back. Is something similar happening in the city?
Yeah, we'll be moving those back to follow suit with our federal and state partners, in that you can go to the City of Flint's webpage to get more detail on that, or just even call that same one number that I've given out. And people have to be patient when they call that one number, because what happens is that we direct those numbers, we direct them to the places from which they have to get to, and that's 410-2020, 410-2020. And I want to make this plea as well, is that Some churches are still opening their doors on Sunday, and I'm not telling you how to engage the faith community or your parishioners that come in, but definitely we have to do so with the thought about their health and welfare, and when they go back home or to those places. I am a strong man of faith. My church and my pastor has shut the doors to the church, but they do have service electronically, much like we're doing this webinar now. I want to ask them to please think about your congregation and think about their families and think about trying to resolve these issues of this virus spreading. We cannot do this alone. And so for those places that's opening their business for drive-throughs, make sure that your employees are safe. Make sure that you give them all the PPE gear, personal protection equipment that's necessary to engage in those in the business activity for you to do so safely. When you're out in public, wear some type of covering over your face. Practice social distancing, even if you sometimes a person doesn't resemble the symptoms that may have for coronavirus, but they still can be contagious. So please, this disease is claiming lives. We still have some availability in our healthcare facilities, but we don't want to overwhelm them because we're not being mindful and protecting one another like we should. And so we don't want to strain the resources that we have. And so please do everything possible to make sure we safeguard one another.
Thank you, Mayor. Adrian, anything else before we close?
I just want to thank the mayor again for taking the time out of your busy schedule to come and speak to us and our membership about everything that the city's doing. We're continuing to pray and definitely have faith as we continue to move forward.
And Adrian, once again, as we observe the shelter in place, I look at the webinar and I look behind you and I see a big wall. Do you have a big television that you want to put up there and that you might want to?
No comment. No comment.
Okay, just checking.
Inside joke. We're on the outside of that one, huh?
Yeah. He has a big wall, big television should go on big walls.
All right.
Plenty of time at home to get that project done.
Right.
All right. Thank you both very much. Again, Mayor, thank you for the time. This webinar will be posted on our website for you to view later. And thank you again for joining us. Everyone have a great day.
Thank you. God bless.
Thank you.